We've gone through the preliminary steps of creating a blank report, connecting to a data source, deciding what objects to have from that data source. We're now at a stage where we can look at adding some of those data items to our report. In order to do that, we will need to see the Field Explorer. So we reopen the Field Explorer. These are the fields that exist in my data, which is TBL contacts. Now, sometimes the names aren't always obvious. They can be a little bit cryptic. So what I would tend to do is go to TBL contacts there, right click and choose show field type. What that then does is tell you what type of data is in that particular field. So we've got a lot of strings here with a maximum of 255 characters. That's what the number refers to. String there with 50 characters max. A couple of memo fields. They are string fields with no maximum value. A date time field, a number field, a boolean, that's a yes no field. A number field for the gender, because that's an ID of their gender. Date time field and another string field. So we want to take some of these fields and place them on our report. There's a number of ways of doing that. We can simply just grab a field with the mouse, grab hold, drag across to the details section. I can go right to the left because the margin is built into the design, so I don't need to allow for margin, and let go. You see it drops the field's name on there. In fact, I've gone a little bit over the edge of the page, so I couldn't see all the field name. So it shows you the field name, and the label appears, the heading appears in the page header. Over in the TBL contacts in the Field Explorer, I have a little green tick against FN. So just by looking here, I know which fields are in use. So I could do the same for SN, grab hold, drag across, let go, places the field, places the label in the page header. Let's bring the town over, and the same thing. Town labels is the data is going to appear in the details, but the label is placed in the page header. Now our labels are exactly the same as the field names, but they can be changed. You cannot rename the field names because that's part of the database structure, but you can rename the labels, which obviously we'll be looking at. Now that's just placing one field one at a time. There are quicker ways of doing things. Let's remove these fields, which we can simply do by selecting the data part of it, not the label part, and just pressing delete on the keyboard, and the fields are removed. The green ticks have gone from here. You can actually place fields onto a report multiply. So if we take the first name, then control click the last name and the town, and let's have their email address. So I've selected 4 fields within here by using control click, which is fairly common within Windows applications. And then I can just grab any one of them, drag across to the details section and let go. And all 4 of those fields are distributed evenly across the details section with their labels being placed in the page header. If you want to remove a field and accidentally click on the label and delete, you'll only lose the label. The data will still stay there. So you'll still have a box displaying the first name, you just won't have a label telling people what it is. So if you want to get rid of both, always delete the data part of it, the data control effectively. If I want to remove these, I can do multiple select to get rid of them. Now the one thing I do quite like about Crystal Reports is the multiple select doesn't care whether you do control click or whether you do shift click. It will still do the same. If it's selected, it will deselect it. If it's deselected, it will select it. And then we can delete. So in this column here, shift click and control click are different because they do consecutive selection or non-consecutive selection as you would expect. But actually on the report, you control click or shift click, really depending on where your fingers are on the keyboard, and it will still pick them up or deselect them if they're already selected. Now there is another method of placing fields onto your report. So we've seen drag and drop. So we can go to our Field Explorer. We can multiple select if we so wish. Let's have first name, surname, dates entered. And instead of dragging them across here, up on the Field Explorer itself, here there is a toolbar. I can click this little icon here that says Insert to Report. One click, and what you'll now find is your cursor is those fields. So I can bring that across to the details section as far left as I dare. One click, and the fields are placed and distributed accordingly. So we've added 3 fields. If I just squish that up, I have room for a smaller one. So these can move further to the left. So I've got first name, surname, date entered, and let's bring in the telephone. So we drop that in there. So I've used drag and drop because I quite like that. And I have 4 fields in the detail section with their corresponding labels in the page header.